Hello everybody, good evening, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest sensational Manchester United transfer news as Manchester United close in on a double transfer swoop of Benjamin Sesko and Baleba from Brighton. We were reacting to that breaking news about an hour ago. There's a lot more coming in about Baleba not closing the door, Brighton leaving the door ajar, but an acceptance by all parties that whilst their deal can be done, it's about how it gets done. We'll also talk about Baleba in relation to how he would fit into a Manchester United side. And I've got some very interesting comparison stats to Caicedo, McAllister and Agate, which will really show you why so many people get excited about this player, including myself. Also got the latest on Sesko. It's an 8 o'clock show as well, so you will be driving this show as always. It's going to be a big one. We've already got about 20,000 closing in, watching on the show already. The biggest and best, not just Man United community, football community in the world. You're absolutely fantastic. Will we be getting a goalkeeper as well? How important is that still? Or would you be happy with Baleba and a Sesko and sticking with what we've got in goal? I still think that is somewhere we need to look at as well. Loads to get into. We'll give you the latest breaking news as well. We're also going to talk about these statistical comparisons. And I think a goal we conceded in pre-season shows the key to Baleba. So get ready for that. Before we get into it all, people are saying we're back. To be fair, we said we're back on the thumbnail, but I'll explain what that's all about, because I don't mean we're back, we're going to win titles. I think we're back in a certain sense, but remind me about that. But before we get into all that, we are sponsored by Boohoo Man tonight. What a show for them to be sponsoring us. If you don't know what Boohoo Man is, they're a long-term partner of ours. They've sponsored the show for a long, long time, and you can get clothing delivered to your door at boohooman.com, and you get a 10% discount by using the code Goldbridge. So they do t-shirts, they do jumpers, they do gym wear, they do five-a-side wear, they do underwear, they do coats, the lot delivered to your door. Go to the website boohooman.com, select what you want, use the code Goldbridge, you get 10% off, but you also get 10% off anything that's discounted on there as well. So if something's got 40% off, you use the code Goldbridge, it will work and you'll get that 10% as well. So check it out there. Fantastic. Scan the QR code or go through the link in the description. But also, because it's Boohoo Man, they do like to do a little bit of trivia for you. Now, I normally know who it is, but I haven't read this one. So here we go. Northern Irish with a Wigan connection. I was born in 1975 in Northern Ireland. I began my professional career with Man United in 92-93. I scored on my debut in the FA Cup third round against Bury, helping them secure a 2-0 win in 1993. In the 93-94 season, Manchester United started assigning players permanent squad numbers and I was given the number 31, but I didn't make any first team appearances and was loaned to Wigan. I returned to United, making occasional appearances in the 94-95 season and scoring once in a 2-0 Premier League win against Newcastle. I left United in January 95 and moved to Newcastle as part of the deal. I thought, for some reason I was thinking Roy Carroll or Johnny Evans. I know who it is now. I left United in 95 and moved to Newcastle. Well, at least somebody did. Bit soon. As part of the deal that brought Andy Cole to Old Trafford, of course, it is Keith Gillespie. And I tell you what, he was a good player. Very, very good player. It was a bit of, I mean, a lot of United fans were very disappointed that he went as part of that Newcastle deal. But, you know, Sir Alex wanted Andy Cole. He was a good player. Good one, that. Big thank you to Boohoo Man for supporting today's show. Don't forget the code Goldbridge, 10% off on top of anything else on the website. Scan the QR code. Big shout out to Boohoo Man. Right, big shout out to all of you lot. We're getting into this show tonight. Loads to get involved in. Champers. Tom Lee says, definitely Sesko. I'm half Slovenian and it was my mum's name. She died of cancer age 48 and it would mean a lot to hear it correctly. Okay, Tom, you've sort of... Yeah, I mean, there's no calling him Sesko now, is there? It's Sesko all the way. Thank you very much for that. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't really have anywhere to go with that. There we go. Let's get into it. Give him some credit, Mark, says Liebert. Who? Who am I giving credit to? Mark, trust me, who would have won the Gyökeres deal against Arsenal if he would have said he wanted us? The transfer window shows no matter how much the player costs. If they say they want us, it's deal done, says Arshan. Do we have to sell to buy Baleba, says Paul. Let me bring you the latest as things stand right now, because it's coming in a lot. There's a lot of things coming in right now. Some of it's nonsense, some of it's actually, you know, on it. So let me just give you where we are right here, right now. Ruben Amorim, since day one at Manchester United, has wanted a midfielder similar to Carlos Baleba's profile. He wants intensity in the midfield and sees Baleba as the perfect target. Man United told Brighton they have a serious interest in Baleba. Everyone involved sees the deal as very difficult. The player hasn't closed the door to Manchester United. This is all from Fabrizio Romano, and he is seen as the perfect player by Amorim for his midfield. And I'll give you a little bit more on that in a moment. Despite Brighton not wanting to sell Baleba, the player hasn't closed the door to it. Amorim, in Ruben Amorim's first few meetings as head coach, says Fabrizio, he emphasised to the board that the squad needs to play with intensity. Baleba fits that perfectly. So all those updates are very, very relevant. I just want to say as well, I'd forgotten this, so, you know, this is blowing our own trumpets a little bit. Ben Jacobs tweeting tonight, Man United have held talks for Baleba, as revealed on United Stand last week. Brighton's position remains they want to keep Baleba for at least one more season. United's interest is genuine, but not an easy deal to do. July the 31st, Man United appreciate Baleba. Nothing is developing at this stage because of the valuation. He could be more of a story over the next few months. Ben Jacobs, United Stand, July the 31st. So, you know what? I didn't even realise that. You know, there's people jumping around there pretending they've got the scoop. And to be honest, it was a week ago on the United Stand. I hadn't even realised that. So, another Jacobs cracker, if you like that as well. Also, he was talking about Sesko on the United Stand in the middle of June as well. So, credit where it's due. Remember that. But look, look, where we're at the moment, I want this to be your show. I want you to have your comments because that's what the 8 o'clock's all about, and that's why it's such a great show. But I will repeat what I said at 7 o'clock. I haven't changed my mind. I think this deal's going to happen. Otherwise, it's all noise and no action. Because as I was saying, we could speak to Real Madrid about Jude Bellingham. We'll never get him. We'll never be able to afford him. Real Madrid could say, okay, give us $500 million and you can have him. There's a price. We're not going to hit it. We can speak to Brighton and say we want Baleba, and Brighton can say, well, you can have him, but it's 80 million. And if we haven't got 8 million, then, you know, we can't do it. So I just think that United probably inquire about a lot of players and don't get them. But it's the public stance again. I go back to why I was so calm with the Sesko deal, because a week ago, David Ornstein said, Sesko is the striker Man United want, and that is it. And you're looking at the quality of the report, and when David Ornstein's putting it out, it's so well briefed, it's so well verified, that he's not the sort of guy that's going to go, Man United would like Baleba, but it's too difficult. Well, what's the point in that? This is the start of the end, in my opinion. This will end up with Baleba being a Man United player. And I'll stand by that again. And I'll stay calm. And I'll say it's going to happen just the way I did with Sesko. Because it just makes total sense. And I'll tell you what, the tweet I've put out has done quite well. So I will read it you. But it's actually more relevant to something else I want to bring in here. Because I've got these comparisons. Let's talk about Baleba. I can't talk to you about, you can talk to me about Baleba. I can't talk to you about anything else. I think it's going to happen. I think that's why Ornstein and Romano are talking about it. And big shout out to Ben Jacobs for talking about it a week ago. I think it's going to happen. And that's where I am with it. Why is it going to happen? Well, I put this out before, and I think this is the first starting point of why it needs to happen. I tweeted this about an hour ago. I really, really like Baleba, but people have to stop misprofiling him. Yes, he can tackle. Yes, he can intercept, and he can pass. But a huge strength is his ability to dribble, progress the ball, and win the ball high up the pitch. He would be wasted as a holding midfielder. And I think there are some people out there that think you've got Bruno Fernandes who's going to wander into the attack and we need someone to play as a 6. That's not really what Amorim's midfield 2 is for. A holding 6 tends to play in a 3. You don't tend to have a 2 and stick 1 on their own. So the 2 sort of supplement each other. So if Bruno's going to wander forward, I expect Baleba to wander forward as well. Now, if you look at the goal we conceded against West Ham, I can't remember who was in the midfield. Let's pretend it was Agate and Bruno, but I can't remember. We all went. The number 10s, the striker, and the 2 midfielders, they all went. And one ball went into Souček, and he's running in space at our back three, centre-backs. Amorim wants to do that. We're not going to leave a holding midfielder. That's not what Amorim wants to do. So this is why Baleba is perfect for our system, because when you look at that goal we conceded against West Ham, we all went, where's the midfield? I think he wants his midfield to do that. I think he wants it to go forward. The problem is the three centre-backs have got to step into that void. There's three of them. So whilst we look at the midfield and go, we need someone to sit, we don't. What we actually need is one of our centre-backs or all three of them, when we're in that position, to press with the midfield and compress the space and force them to play the long ball over the top, which you've got the recovery pace for, or a sweeper keeper. The problem with that West Ham goal is it highlights exactly why Baleba would work, because he wouldn't be sat there going, I'm here to mark Souček. He would be going forward with Bruno as well, but the three centre-backs need to step forward as well to kill that space. That is how Amorim wants to play. So we may not like Bruno in the midfield, but this new midfielder, if it's Baleba, is not meant to come in and hold his hand. He's there to go forward as well, and that's what Bruno's going to do. We're meant to suffocate teams high up the pitch. That's what we're meant to do. And having three centre-backs, one of them has to step in there as well. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think this is verified by, if you're going to use Baleba as a bloody Rodri, you're wasting your bloody time. You may as well go and spend that money on a championship holding midfielder, because that's not what he's going to do. Baleba is everything. He's a tackler, he's an interceptor, he wins the ball high up the pitch, he dribbles, he gets the ball, he carries the ball. He's all action. He'd be a number 8 in a midfield 3, not a number 6. And I think that's what we want to do. I think we want to play with 2 8s that really get forward and force the attack. That's what we want to do. We want to score bloody goals. That's why we've brought Sesko, apparently. That's why we've brought definitely Cunha and Mbeumo. AFCON's going to take our whole squad in January, says Matteo. Ornstein and Romano are goats, but could Jacob slowly be closing the gap to create a threesome top-notch transfer journalings based on this season's story, says Ray. Look, Ben's done really well. Ben's done really well. It's great to have him on the channel, but I've got to put my hands up. I didn't realise he'd spoken about Baleba last week. Or Sesko in the middle of June. So that's, fair play where it's due. You asked us recently if the club were backing Amorim. I think now we can say yes. Bruno stayed per Amorim, and if we get Baleba, we will spend 300. This is a great question by Nick. This is a really great question, because I was thinking about it about half an hour ago. I saw Maud's earlier. I saw the clip where he was talking about, has Amorim been backed? And I was asked it last night, and I was saying, well, he's not been backed just because he gets a striker and 2 number 10s. He's half been backed. He needs the midfield and the goalkeeper. So I think if Baleba comes in, and keeping Bruno was on him as well, then you've got 2 number 10s, a midfielder, a striker. You're very close to being backed. I still think the goalkeeper's important, but I mean, we needed 5 signings minimum. If you get Baleba, that's 4. You're 1 away, and there's still there's still time. Hi Mark, Ineos must have had an aha moment. Do you reckon interest from Liverpool and Arsenal in Baleba can meet this difficult on us, says Yazzo. Again, a good question. I sort of did think about this. The difficulty with the Baleba deal, obviously, it's difficult if it's just us. But what if we might, people were saying that maybe this is one for 12 months' time. The problem with 12 months' time is Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal might look at that. The great thing about now is, and I'm not saying for 1 minute Man United have done this on purpose. As much as I would love to think they have, some people are going to side with me on this, and some people are saying you're talking out your arse. I would like to think, and I know it's ridiculous, but I'm going to go with it anyway. Maybe I'm in a positive mood. Humour me. I would like to think Man United have deliberately waited to go late on Baleba so that all the other clubs that could probably beat us to him have shot their load, so to speak. Like, Arsenal have got Norgard and Zubimendi. Chelsea don't need another midfielder. Liverpool don't need another midfielder. And Man City don't need another midfielder. So if we go for Baleba, I think people like Liverpool and Chelsea especially will look at it and go, we want him. But then they'll go, we can't get him because we don't need a player like that. And it's a hell of a lot of money. So look, it's a big jump. It's a big leap of faith. And I'm not sure even I agree with it. But could we have tactically waited late in the window to go for Baleba on purpose, knowing that if we went for him in June, we might spark Arsenal or Liverpool or somebody else to go for him. So look, it's a stretch of the imagination, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that the obvious positive of going for Baleba is there isn't really a club that can go for him and blow us out of the water, because they're all committed already to their budgets that they've spent. Yeah, you might get a Newcastle, they can try it. You might get a Spurs, they can try it, but you're not going to get one of the big four, are you? Normally think this latest transfer gossip is diversionary tactics, but we're literally on the brink of Sesko, so why? Could be genuine. Also longer intros so we don't miss the start, says Tarkers. I don't know what that means, but thank you very much for your super chat. We can choose to strain our revolving credit for now. It's between 75 and 95. Top CDM up at the Champions League, says Hitton. Look, I've said this before. I said this before Sesko, before Baleba. I'm absolutely convinced that we need to be in the Champions League at the end of this season. I've seen the money. And it's incredible. I mean, Liverpool earns £100 million in the Champions League. They didn't even get past the first knockout round. This is ridiculous money, and it's every bloody 12 months. It's £100 million every 12 months. Now, think about it. If I know I'm going to be in the Champions League every year for the next 5 years, I can buy 5 players every summer. Well, not every summer, but I can buy 5 players at £100 million each, knowing that I can pay 20 each year for the next 5. Now, I know that's over the top, but £100 million every year just for being in the Champions League. Suddenly, you're able to make those big deals. And that's why I think United, it's almost like stick or bust, because we've got to go for it. We've got to get in the Champions League. And there's no point in doing half and half and hoping. We're a long way behind the Villas and the Brightons and the Newcastles from last season. We've got to close that gap this season. What do you think we have to pay for Baleba, says Tutti Frutti? I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, Brighton have took teams for 100 million. Chelsea paid 100 million for Caicedo. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I pitch 80, to be honest, but could be a little bit less. But I would say 80, yeah. Seeing Sesko score bangers from beyond the box excites me. I miss Rooney and Scholes scoring screamers, says Dawid. Rawari, welcome to the Members Club. Hey, Mark, thank you for all you do. Please, could you give my girlfriend, Leoma, a shout out? We're going through a rough patch right now. We watch together, says Oki. Well, you know, hopefully you go through a good patch. Mark, you give us a Sesko in your best Sean Connery accent, says Miles Duig. Let's take 5. A few shiny pennies don't mask the fact that the Glazers and Champers Jim are still in charge, says Ian Robinson. Look, I'm going to mention this. I mean, it's all kicked off a little bit today because of the protests, and I actually I think some of our fans have behaved really badly today. Like, they've called out the 58, saying they shouldn't be including Sir Jim in it. They shouldn't be protesting. And look, whilst I agree the timing was never going to be good when you're about to sign Sesko and now Baleba stories, no one's going to want to protest. But I've said this time and time again. Glazers Out does really well when they don't spend money. Glazers Out does really well when we lose a few games. It doesn't work well when you're just about to sign players in a transfer window. So I'd say the timing of the protest wasn't the best. But what I will say is, absolutely 100%, Glazers Out should be in everybody's vocabulary every minute of every day as a Man United fan. And if you are being fooled by transfers again, then you are just falling into the same trap as Pogba, Casemiro, Anthony. You know, they have still put us into debt. They have still destroyed this football club from where it should be. We haven't been in a title race for 10 years. So, look, the timing of protests is never going to work when people are buzzing off their tits about transfers. They're not going to work. I completely agree with that. But if we lose 3 of our first 6 games, people will be Glazers Out again. That's just the way it works. So, you know, I just think it's fair to be balanced. It's not about, you know, let's not have protests. It's about no one wants to protest because they're buzzing about transfers. But if we lose 3 of our first 6 games, everyone will be going Glazers Out again. And that's the roller coaster of why the Glazers survive, I suppose. Are the owners, but we shouldn't brush it under the carpet because we don't feel like talking about it because we want to talk about positive transfers. We fell into that trap many times before. If there was a button that I could press to remove the Glazers and stop this Baleba and Sesko deal, I'd do it because I think it would be better for us in the long run. But, you know, there is no button, so we have to celebrate and hope that we can be better, as we always have hoped. Are the owners pushing a story of going for a player not for sale to put a positive spin on their ownership, says Cameron? I don't think so. I don't think David Ornstein is the sort of journalist that gets pulled in by that shit, to be honest. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. I think we'll get him. You know, you trusted me on Sesko, trust me on this. I think we'll get him. Hi, Mark. If we get, and that's not based on, I've been told we were going to get Sesko, or I was told we were going to get Baleba. I just think it's my way of, and probably your way of, following news and gaining experience from following that news and understanding pathways. It's a bit like being a tennis player, isn't it? You know, if you watch somebody and how they play, you master their serve, you learn how they like to hit the ball. It's the same as in transfers. Certain journalists, certain briefs, certain patterns emerge. And I think this David Ornstein and Romano drop about Baleba, it's weird if it's just United would like Baleba. It's definitely more than that. It's definitely more than that. Hi, Mark. If we get Sesko and Baleba, do you think we could break into the top 5, says Castlewellan? I think you fix a massive problem in the midfield. Well, you try to fix a massive problem in the midfield, and you try to fix a massive problem up front. So, tick, tick. Very happy with Mbeumo and Cunha. Goalkeeper worries me. But you would hope. Look, I'd certainly be saying we've got to go and get 5th. That has to be, look, the answer is I don't know whether we would get 5th, but I think I'd be saying we've got to go for 5th. Whereas I think if somebody was saying to me we've got to go and get 5th based on the squad at the moment, I'd be saying get real. You know, it's a big jump. Simply Red says, Baleba news is very exciting. Just need to work on outgoings, getting Garnacho, Sancho, Rasmus Mount, Shaw and Malacia off the books. If so, successful windows, says Simply Red. They're going to go. They're going to go. They're going to go. I think if I was Garnacho or Anthony or Sancho, I would be sat there realising I'm becoming more and more irrelevant by the day. Man United are moving on. They're making signings. They're making noise. And you're not part of the story. And this is why Amorim's insistence that they're not part of pre-season and they don't go on the tour was brilliant. Because if they were, they'd be in the spotlight. And they've basically just had their lifeline cut. They're irrelevant. Now, they will get clubs that want them, but there's no noise around them, is there? Sesko, Baleba plus Donnarumma, and we are back for real, says Carlo. Hope Newcastle make a bid so we can sign him faster, says Mitchell. If we get Baleba, I'll crack over the Dom Perignon. Champers, says Daniel. Donnarumma next, Wilcox at the wheel, says 1 Inch Wonder. Need to stay calm and go for a walk, Mark, says JB. Hey, I was sat in my studio when the Baleba stuff broke, so, you know, don't need to go out anymore. Stop sending me out. It's bloody raining. Thank you for all the shows. You're a legend, says Wesley. Thank you for all you do for the community. Real excited for Man United's future. Fingers crossed, Red Devil, says Wesley. Hey, you know what? It is exciting. Absolutely, it's exciting. But we also have to be pragmatic because some people aren't going to see it as exciting. They're going to go, look at all those mugs falling for transfers again. And actually, I sort of do agree with that, even though I'm very excited. But look at our first 8 games. We play Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal. You lose 4 of those games, and I don't care whether you've bought bloody Mbappe. The shit'll hit the fan. People will be phoning up about Amorim. It'll be Amorim out. So, yeah, you've got to enjoy the highs because we all know how lows the lows go when things go, you know, wrong. And it is a tough start to the season, regardless of who we bring in. We are playing a game of very, very big catch-up. Second thing is, I think despite Amorim said the pre-season was a success, he knows everything he knows. He needs a midfielder, says Arshan. How about Collier as part of an exchange, says DJ? Could be an idea. Get what United are cooking on Cooking with Goldbridge, says Kenzie. Definitely, I've done that from Tom. Do we have to sell to buy Baleba, says Paul Fisher? Yes. Stephen, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for getting your badge in. Really appreciate that. Thank you for everybody who supports us. We're hitting 30,000 nearly again. Please share the video. If we sign Baleba, I will genuinely shit my pants, says Smolly. I mean, that's an amazing... So you're telling me you poo yourself when you get excited. Wow. I can see into the future we will get Baleba, says XGV. And I may be a Baleba, but I thought, you know what? For some reason, Mike, I read that as I may be a lesbian. I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't even look like it. I suppose the L and the B and the E, that's about, well. Anyway, Mike says, I may be a Baleba, but wondering why it's taken so long to get it's been a long day. Why it's taken so long to get these clowns to do a proper transfer window. Now, if only the unwanted would go. They will go, Mike. They will go. Right, thank you for your comments. I want to slip back into a little bit of preaching at you for a moment because I did promise this at the start of the video. So, how does Baleba work? Because I have seen a bit of him, and every time I've seen him, I've really liked him. I don't watch Brighton play every bloody week. In fact, I found them quite frustrating last year. I personally think they underachieved. They had a very good squad when you think about the players that they had. But every time I've seen him, I've really liked him. And as I said on the show earlier, I watched them play Man City at Brighton just before Christmas last year, maybe in November time. And first half, I think Man City were winning 1-0. And it was at the time when Man City weren't that good, which was most of the season. I think Baleba was on the bench, or he had a quiet first half. I think he was on the bench, though. And he came on in the second half, and the game changed. He changed the game. He got hold of the midfield. They got the goals. They really deserved it, and I think they won 2-1. He's a really, really exciting player. But I thought, you know what? We probably need to understand a little bit more about what he is. So what I've done is I've used Y-Scout, and I've taken Ugarte, Baleba, McAllister of Liverpool, and Caicedo of Chelsea. And we're just going to run through a few things comparatively. So first and foremost, let's start with the positive side of his game. He got 4 goals last season, which is 1 more than Ugarte got. But is he about goals? Probably not. He's also the youngest by a long way. He's 21, McAllister is 26, Caicedo is 23, and Ugarte is 24, which is still relatively young. I always think Ugarte is 26 for some reason. But this is where I think you look at Baleba and you go, you know, this is what he is all about. Crosses per 90, we're not in. Okay, dribbles per 90, 1.8 dribble per 90, 1.1 for Ugarte, 1 for McAllister, and 1.3 for Caicedo. So out of all those 4 players, he is the most progressive player as a dribbler. What about offensive duels per 90? So that's when you're winning the ball, on the ball, higher up the pitch. 7.5 per 90, 5.6 for Ugarte, 4.3 for McAllister, and 5.2 for Caicedo. So it shows you he wants to be high up the pitch because he's doing it a lot more on the offensive duels. Progressive runs per 90, so this is where he gets the ball and runs more than 5 or 10 metres with the ball. 1.6, Ugarte 0.7, McAllister 1, and Caicedo 1. So again, I think when you look at Baleba on the offensive side of things, then certainly he is ahead of those 3 players. 100%. Absolutely. Why has that done that? Sorry, it's frozen at the wrong time now. Here we go. Compare mode, relevant on position. Now, what about the defensive side of the game? So passes per 90, 39. Ugarte 43, McAllister 42, Caicedo 53. So he's the lowest in relation to passes per 90, even though he plays for Brighton. Defensive duels per 90, 6.3, Ugarte 9.2, McAllister 8.1, and Caicedo 7.2. So he's the lowest on defensive duels as well. Even though he's the highest on offensive duels, he's the lowest on defensive duels. Defensive duels won, 63% Ugarte, 58% Baleba, 59% McAllister, and 62% Caicedo. So it's not bad, but he's the lowest again there. Recoveries per 90, 10, compared to 7.6 for McAllister, 9.6 for Caicedo, and 10 for Ugarte. Opponent half recoveries is the highest, 4.7 to Ugarte's 4.3, to McAllister's 3.8, to Caicedo's 4.6. So he's good at getting in the opposition half and recovering the ball. There was something I wanted to talk about. Interceptions per 90, 6. 6.1 for Ugarte, 5.5 for McAllister, and 5.1 for Caicedo. So if you were looking at the defensive side of things, he's really no better than a McAllister, a Caicedo, or a Ugarte. But where he excels is in the dribbling, in the running with the ball, and with the winning the ball high up the pitch. That's where Baleba excels beyond Ugarte, McAllister, and Caicedo. So that's, for me, the biggest part of his game. And that, for me, is why Amorim really wants him, because he wants his midfielders to get forward. He wants his midfielders to go and win the ball. He wants his midfielders to move the ball forward. And that's probably why Bruno's been playing in the midfield as well. So don't expect Baleba to come into the team and displace Bruno. I think we'll play Bruno and Baleba, and they'll both be going forward, winning the ball high up the pitch, which is why the centre-backs have got to step into the midfield, as many of you have said. It is the only way And this has to happen. Bruno has to be a success for Man United to be a success. And as much as I would have sold him, and many of you would have sold him for that price, and as much as I don't believe he's a midfielder, and many of you don't believe he's a midfielder, for him to be a midfielder, the team has to change the way it plays. We can't play the way we've played for the last 10 years, where midfielders sit and win the ball back and progress the ball. Our midfielders have got to be part of the attack. That's the whole point. We've got to go front foot. Our three centre-backs have got to step forward. It becomes a problem when you play teams like Liverpool or Arsenal away from home and you haven't got the ball. But we've got to be brave, and that's what we're looking to do. Patrick McDowell, thank you and welcome to the Members Club. SK says, Baleba would be so perfect for us, can dribble and drive up the pitch versus Bruno's long balls, but has the engine and pace to go levels as well. Just slow down and type it out, mate. It's not, that will help out in the long run. Jared says, weren't you slagging people off for wanting to get Baleba? Now all of a sudden you're all for it. Jared, I appreciate your negativity, and I'll help you with that. I've been talking about Baleba a lot longer than a lot of people who've been saying go and sign Baleba this summer. So watch That's Football. Listen to the United Stand 8 months ago. I was talking about Baleba. I really like the player. I think he's a fantastic player. What I said was, people are talking about signing him, and there's absolutely no links at all to us signing him, and he'll be really expensive. So what I was basically saying is I'm not wasting my time in a fantasy talking about signing a player that we're not linked to. We're now linked to him. That's when the excitement kicks in. So stop trying to label me as somebody that was slagging people off for wanting Baleba. That's not what I was doing. I was saying it's a waste of time. Until something happens that's concrete, it's a waste of time. And I certainly have never said I don't want Baleba. In fact, quite the opposite. How much do you think United has to pay this year for every new signing this summer because we're supposed to be broke? Frederick, I can't answer that question. I don't have the... and I'll tell you what, just to go back on that from Jared, because at the end of the day, this is entertainment. This is why that United Stand is the biggest and the best. That's why we've got 31,000 people watching. It's not all about, some people out there just live up the arse of Ineos on the Glazers and lick it out. We are here to demand, and that is why I won't rant and rave about these sort of things, and I will be positive about it because we've been talking about it for so long. I'm not going to go, wow, I'm so amazed that Man United are going to try and buy Baleba and Sesko, because we've been talking about it for fucking years. This is what we should be doing. Roy Keane, I'm sure, as somebody said before, would go, applaud someone for doing their job. Is this not what the owners of Man United should be doing? Our revenue is ridiculous. We're one of the biggest clubs in the world, one of the biggest sporting clubs in the world. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh my God, I'm absolutely stunned. I can't believe we're trying to buy players from Brighton that are good. We should be doing this. But on the other hand, we haven't been doing it. So when we do it, I'll say, well done, let's do more of it. But I've always liked Baleba. But what I will say, and I didn't need to say this, on Sesko, I did say a few weeks ago, and I'm surprised no one's brought it up, and we are waiting on a here we go for Sesko. I thought it would have happened by now. I'm sure it's going to happen any minute. Maybe it's going to be tomorrow now. But what I did say about Sesko, and I'm surprised nobody's pulled me up on this, so I'll pull myself up on it. I did say about Sesko, obviously he's a very talented player. Arsenal want him. I don't know whether he suits Amorim's system. And I'm going to own that. I'm very excited about him. But I did say a few weeks ago, I like Sesko. I haven't seen loads of him. From what I've seen, he's very exciting. He's very young, but he's very exciting. But I don't know whether he fits Amorim's system. And I'm still going to say that. That doesn't mean I don't back him. That doesn't mean I'm not excited about it. I'm certainly not saying I don't want him. I've seen some people saying that. But what I have said is that, I'd have much preferred Gyökeres or Osman. Of course, anybody would. But, it might be in 3 or 4 months that we go, Watkins would have been better. It might be in 3 or 4 months that we go, this is the best signing we could have made. So I'm not going to sit here and say that Sesko is going to solve all our problems. I think we've done that too many times with too many players. But I am excited about it. And I think what I am excited the most of all is because from what I've seen of him, I don't actually know how he's going to work with Amorim. But the fact that Favel is so locked in on this, and I read something earlier that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has been very impressed by Favel's pushing of Sesko, and there is faith in him on this. It's very exciting. But look, if I'm honest, I know a lot more about Baleba, and I think the midfield is not good enough. So for me, that's more of a home run than Sesko, who I think will be a home run as well. If we sign Baleba, what happens to Mainu? I love this question, Maliki. I want to talk about this. I think this is the best question for the second half of the show tonight. If we did get Baleba, what happens to Mainu, Bruno, Casemiro, Ugarte? Because we're not in Europe. We're playing one game a week. Okay, you might have the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup after January to, spread out the season. And there's probably going to be injury, etc. But that's a lot of midfielders for two positions. I have a theory about what might happen on that one as well. I was at the game against Brighton at Old Trafford. Baleba was a monster. He was everywhere, almost like an extra man, says Emily. And this is what Amorim wants, isn't it, Emily? He wants that, intensity. CEO of Brighton just said there's no contact about Baleba, says Lars. There may well not be. I wouldn't even listen to that. The story from David Ornstein, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have it in front of me, was through intermediaries. Wasn't directly with Brighton. So I don't think we need to have spoken to Brighton yet. I think we spoke to intermediaries. So Brighton would... Look, it's going to be a very difficult deal to do. It could end as quickly as it started. But as I said, I think this is going to happen because it makes no sense to brief Ornstein and Romano. What's the benefit of Man United going, hello, David. Here's an exclusive for you. Get ready with your bomber or whatever you call it. We're interested in Baleba and we've spoke to him in the last few days. You can run it. See you later. I've told him. Why have we told him? I was just getting excited about the Sesko deal, and I thought, you know what, I'm buzzing my tits off about all this positivity. So I thought, I might ring him up in a minute and say we're going to bid for Courtois. We've done that for a reason, and I think the reason is to start towards the end, which is to get him. And I wouldn't be worried about Brighton saying he's not for sale or we've not had any contact, because how many clubs have said that? Regarding Bruno, I agree with Amorim. How can he sell Bruno? You are bringing a lot of new players in. He has a huge influence to help embed the culture, says Shan. I pee myself in my sleep if I'm too drunk, says Barry. Casido went to Chelsea 2 years ago. Have you seen that episode of Trainspotting where he craps himself when he's drunk? Oh, God. Casido went to Chelsea 2 years ago for 150 million. Brighton would demand at least 100. Would you pay 100 million pounds for Baleba? I'm asking myself that as well. If you can get me a goalkeeper as well, why not? Agent Onana and Mbeumo to push Baleba, says Ren. I don't think they'll be that helpful, to be honest. I read that crap earlier on and I thought, here we go. It's not going to change my mind about the volleyball player in goal. Onana's not going to get this deal done. All he can say is, come to Manchester United, it's a great club. And Baleba could go, thanks, or he could go, yeah, I figured that one out for myself. They're pretty much, I have been playing in the Premier League. I know they're a big club. Onana's not going to negotiate with Brighton, is he? Is the concrete set in the kitchen like Baleba is concrete? It's still a bit wet, Gino. If we can get, I won't be rude. If we can get back into the yearly Champions League, when do we start paying off the debt versus investing into the squad? 100 million a year into the squad is huge, but the debt and the interest isn't going away, says Nick. Big question, fair point. I can't answer. 100 million for Baleba, or if we want depth in the squad, I'm sure we can get two very good midfielders for that amount, says Mojo. We will absolutely shine with Baleba, an amazing player. You were amazing with all the shows today, Mark. Well done to you. The kitchen loves you, says the United Kitchen. Thank you very much. We have to credit Ineos thoughts, says Unik. No, we don't. No, I don't think we do, and I don't think they would want us to. I don't think that's how it works, mate. We're in debt. They saved the Glazers. The stadium's being knocked down. We finished 15th. We lost the Europa League final, and we've been linked to Baleba. So we should start praising Ineos. No, I don't think they expect that. I think they know they've got lots of work to do. I think they know they've got a lot of respect to earn back. They're doing their job. Well done. This is what we want to see. It's exciting. But the mistake some of our fans make is they start talking about Murtaugh madness or Woodward walking in the room like a boss. There's a lot more that needs to be done to this club than sign Sesko and Baleba. A hell of a lot. That won't win us a Premier League. These are the steps we need to make. These are the open goals that need to be scored. We should applaud it, but I don't think we need to start saying sorry or, oh, you know, they're amazing. This is their job and they need to do more of it. We should encourage it. This blueprint are looking more and more like Amorim's rebuilding Sporting, says Stian. Prediction number of goals and goal difference next season, says TK. Can someone answer that in the chat? Because it's not, my brain's not in that way. I can't, and I don't want to. I'm trying to be polite. I don't want to predict our goal difference and how many goals we're going to score next year. It's just not something that I would even, I'd just be wasting seconds thinking about it. 66, 69 and plus 15. There you go. Are they dropping Baleba story to force others out, says Daniel. Right, I need to talk about this. I just want to catch up on some of these comments. I think it's possible we actually should do it. I'm convinced Baleba would actually get his top 5, says Andre. Sesko, Baleba and Donnarumma and Burmo and Cunha top 5, says Christian. Well, you'd expect it with those 5. I agree. Signing Sesko and Baleba would be absolutely brilliant, but we must keep an open mind as we are still far behind the likes of the top 6, says Hamza. Any chance of getting Swedish Rumble on the show? He'd be great to talk through. I think he would be smoggy, but I don't know whether he talks like that. You know, it's a difficult thing to bring somebody on and visually put them on. I can ask them. Mark McHugh, welcome to the Members Club. Shane Cook, welcome to the Members Club. A midfield of Baleba and Mainu would feed families, says Ben. Did Sir Jim find oil? Says Nick. And hi Mark, are we doomed if we are left with Onana, especially considering Rumen isn't really comfortable with him? Who's your favourite replacement? Just Rabbit. I've thought about this very, very quickly. We could get by with Onana in goal. I am not going to say it's impossible that we could get by with Onana in goal. We won the FA Cup with Onana in goal and finished 8th. With a better scoring team, we could get 5th with Onana in the goal. He's a weakness, but it doesn't mean we're going to get relegated. Like, we could get 5th with Onana in goal. It would just be a weakness. We'd have a lot better chance of 5th without him, but you could get by with him. I don't think he's totally useless. I just think it's an improvement we need to make that Amorim certainly wants to make and the club want to make, but it might not be something we can do this summer. So just bear that in mind. It's 100% something the club want to do. Whether they can do it, I don't know. Big shout out to Mark McHugh and Shane Cook, by the way, for getting their badges in. Really appreciate your support. Hi, Mark. Are we done on that one? Hi, Mark. After seeing Baleba story tonight, any chance next big step is Donnarumma, says Cornell. A little bit like I was talking about Sesko before. People are running on to the next deal. Baleba will be incredibly long and incredibly difficult. And you're already moving on to Donnarumma. My only reservation, even though I think it will get done, is I've seen this stuff before, where something positive happens and you get 2 or 3 other positives and you think it's all going to happen and then it doesn't. I remember around the time that Ornstein broke the Mbumo story at the start of June, the Gyökeres story sort of got a load of momentum and you started to think Gyökeres and Mbumo, and obviously the Gyökeres thing didn't happen. It's because they put Ineos in also, says Robert McCormack. Let's be honest, season starts in 2 weeks, going to want 100 million plus, going to need to replace him. Can we really afford this, as we need a goalkeeper, says Ray. And I wonder what was planned if we got the Champions League, says Ron. I would hope the plan is pretty much the same. I know they said they had a different plan, but I would hope that this was pretty much the plan. Because as much as I like Edison, and that stopped because we didn't get Champions League football, I would argue that Baleba is a better signing than Edison. We need to sell Delo, says XGV. Never going to happen. Amorim loves him. With Bruno in midfield, he'll be a flop after 3 weeks. It says it's just Sebastian. What percentage are you for Baleba, says Sesk? I mean, that's incredible. It's a really difficult deal. 60% at the moment. Every time we get linked to another player, my brother makes fun of United because we're supposed to be broke, says Frederick. Ewan says, in the 10 a.m. show, you mentioned the movie Heat. Great film. What are your Goldbridge top 3 films? I'd probably say Heat, Godfather, Jaws. Will we go for a keeper if we get Baleba, says Mikhail. I hope so. Right, I've caught up on that. Right, somebody was just telling me that Sky says the deal is off. So let me just go back to that. Do you think we'll get a here we go for Sesko tonight? I mean, I think we had those 2 days in June when it broke for Mbumo on the Monday night. For the next 48 hours, it was crazy. And it feels like at the moment we're going through a really crazy 48 hours. So, look, I wanted Sesko here we go today because he's waiting to get on a plane. And if we get here we go, he can get on the plane. So I wanted it tonight so he can be on the plane tomorrow doing his Carrington medical on Friday and on the pitch on Saturday. That can still happen if we get Here We Go tomorrow. So I would expect it. I mean, it's getting a bit late now. It's nearly 9 o'clock in the UK. It can happen at 10. It can happen at 11 o'clock. Of course it can. But I get the feeling it might be, you know, edging towards tomorrow now. Some of you will be edging, let's be honest. This is from Ben Jacobs. Brighton CEO Paul Barber on Baleba speaking at the Albion Fans Forum. There's always going to be interest in our players. Man United have not been in touch with me. Speculation is speculation. He's a fantastic talent. We hope he'll be here for years to come, but it is subject to the dynamics of football, which aren't always predictable. Talks took place with intermediaries. Brighton plan is to keep Baleba with the summer 26 move, more likely as it stands. Well, Ben Jacobs led this story. You know, he said this a week ago on the United Stand. He led this story. And, you know, he did say that 2026 is more likely as an exit. And that's probably part of Brighton's plan. If you want to get him out, you're going to have to pay. The interesting thing is, from Paul Barber, the CEO of Brighton, is that I read an interview with him last week where he said the same thing. Basically, the way that club is run is they know they sell players and replace players. They know their manager becomes good and leaves, and then they get another manager. Brighton are basically the Moneyball, if you've seen that brilliant film with Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. So they're not going to be a club that says you're not for sale, because that's not what their policy is. But it will be very, very difficult because we will have to pay big money. Now, I think for Manchester United, the big money we're going to have to pay is going to be very big. And the only way we're going to be able to pay that is by doing it in installments. So, I mean, look, I wouldn't advise Man United to go to Brighton and do what we did with Brentford and go, there's 45 million. Or can we have him on loan like we did with Villa? Which still, to me, has been swept under the carpet massively and is still nonsensical to this day. I don't understand why we went to Villa and said, can we loan Emi Martinez? I would say for Manchester United to get Baleba, we've got to make them sit up, and we've got to go, there's £80 million, we'll pay you over 4 years. That's got to be a starting point. And if they say they want 100, maybe you walk away, or maybe you go, okay, we'll give you 90 over 5. Like, we're going to have to drop something stupid. And as soon as I say that, people in the chat, speaking like from Boston, people in the car, people in the chat are going, we can't pay that, we can't pay that. We've got to. We've got to. There is no bargain here. There is no negotiations. Brighton don't need to sell, don't want to sell. So we're going to have to make them want to sell. And you're not going to get a bargain. So if you're not in for Baleba at 80 or 90 million pounds, then walk away. Because that is the only way we're going to get this deal done. And we've got to be realistic. And let's be clear. Just like when West Ham bought Declan Rice for 100 million, and just like when Chelsea bought Caicedo for 100 million, people are going to rip the piss out of us if they do it and go, I can't believe you spent that amount of money. That's the game. That's the game. And that's why I think it will happen, because you don't let David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano say we've been talking to Brighton unless you've got a plan. And all for the last few days, we've had people going, Newcastle are going to get this deal done. He hasn't said he wants Man United. We've agreed a deal with Leipzig and the player. And all along, I was just like you going, David Ornstein says we're in for Sesko. Sesko definitely wants Man United, and so he does. And if David Ornstein says we've been in contact with Brighton, then Man United want Baleba. And if we want Baleba, we know Brighton. And we know we've got to drop 80, 90, which doesn't actually fit in with what Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said we're not doing those type of deals anymore. We're not going to do these type of deals anymore. He specifically said we're not going to spend big money on players anymore. But this deal will have to be big money. And if we get him for anything lower than 80 million, I would say bloody amazing. I really would. Ryan, welcome to the Members Club. I do need to answer this, Ryan, because we are approaching 9 o'clock and the Love Island crew, I think it's over now. Must have been love, but it's over now. So if we got Baleba, play hypothetical game here, what happens with our midfield? Because you cannot go into a season where you spend that amount of money. And remember, with Sesko and Baleba, you're touching 300 million here, which is right. I think a manager in their first summer should be backed significantly. But you cannot have a midfield of Bruno, Baleba, Casemiro, Ugarte, Mainu. You can't have those five. One of them's got to go. Mainu's going to sign a new contract. Ugarte's only been here a year. There's no recovery there. That would be a huge loss on the books. So Casemiro would have to look at it and go, World Cup year, I'm not going to play. I've just got back into the Brazil squad with Ancelotti. How does he pick me when I'm not playing games for Man United? And this is where ruthless Amorim comes along, because he's done it to Casemiro before. As much as Casemiro was very good for us in this final part of the season, from, what was it, end of December to February, couldn't get on the pitch. Wouldn't use him. So I would imagine Amorim would say, remember January? Hello, it's coming back. It's all coming back to me now. And Amorim isn't an arsehole, but I think he'd say, look, you're not part of my plans and I'm not going to pick you. So really, if you want to go to the World Cup, you might want to go to Saudi or wherever, because I know you're looking to run your contract down, but we're not a charity, mate, and you're not going to play. So I think Casemiro, well, look, if I was Casemiro, as much as I want to run my contract down, I want to go to the World Cup for Brazil in the United States. So I think Casemiro goes and Baleba comes in. That's what I would think. That's the most logical thing to do. I mean, as I said, I'm not going to lie. I'd still take the money from Al Hilal if it's there, but, you know, we've got to move on from that. And I do like Bruno, but I would have took the money. And Mainu, some people are saying Mainu, no. Not for, I've always known he's going to sign a new contract, and I actually don't think that would happen. No. Baleba is viewing people's IG stories of United fans posting about him joining us, says Alfie. To be honest, Baleba looks like he'll be better than Casido, and he went for 100 million, so I don't think we're going to get him for anything under that, says Tusha. Can we? Right, I'm going to run a poll here. I want to know what you think, because a lot of people are saying we're not going to get this deal done. It's too expensive. Will we sign Baleba this window? Yes or no? Can we give them Collier and 50 million for Baleba? I think we could give. Should we give them Collier, Anthony, and Sancho, and they can give us 50 million? What happens to interest in Rasmus? I still think that's a story to develop, James. I'm a Baleba. I agree, Mark. A deal will be done, says Up the Reds. Hi, Mark. If it ends up being a firm no from Brighton, where would you pivot for the midfield? Says Colin. Wharton. This is a great question. This is a great question because you can't, I get my words out. Such a good question. You can't go for Baleba. It's impossible and then not get anybody, because you've just basically told the whole fan base what we know. The midfield is not good enough. So if you don't get Baleba and then you go into the season without a midfielder, you're basically going to go from hero to zero. Inu's just gifted 20 memberships talking about heroes, absolute legends. Please say thanks to him for that. So, yeah, I think that's a really good question. If we didn't get him for whatever reason, and I think we probably will, we'd have to go for somebody else. In which case, I think Yulmlin at Sporting would work as well. I must say, as a sceptic, if the ownership deliver 4 new decent signings and 3 exits, I'm happy in terms of a decent window. Believer next, says Darren. Paul Barber was great as Denzel in Only Fools and Horses, says Robert McCormack. Yeah, I don't think that's the... I know that Paul Barber, and he was brilliant, especially to Hull and back. I love that episode. Yeah, it's not that one though. Mark, loving all the good news and signings, but I'd love to know how much all the staff made redundant were on for us to spend this much, says Andy Cheetham. Yeah, look, I I don't really know what's gone on with the fan base today, but I've seen some pretty ridiculous, in my opinion, reactions to what the 58 were trying to do. I don't agree with the timing of the protest because it's just not going to work when everyone's getting excited about transfers. But give it 2 months and bad results and everyone will be the Glazers out again. So, but, you know, I just think people need to take a breath and go, okay, maybe the time is not right for protests, but going in on the 58 for mentioning protests, you will all be wanting them if we start losing games again. You're just lost in the transfer window. And we all need to, I mean, I am as well. I don't think it's the right time to be doing protests because you're not going to get the numbers and the attention that you want, and that's what it's all about. But to say that they're doing it for attention is ridiculous. Like, you know what? You could all be screaming Glazers out again. In fact, statistically, you probably will be when you look at the last 10 years. I hope we won't, but yeah, I think the people criticising the protests today really need to just have a little step back and go, you know, we're all enjoying the transfer news, but we have been here before, and then we have been Glazers out after. I mean, I'm Glazers out now. Bounty Hunter says, all the naysayers, Mark, would make you sick. The 3 signings we have so far, we did not deserve them based on last year. I personally am very happy. This is Bounty Hunter. Hope you well, says Rizik. Should we land the Baleba and goalie deal? Do you foresee other transfers or which other areas we need to strengthen? Rizik, I think that Liam says Ben Jacobs' tweet, which I think we've just covered, but I'll check again in a minute. I said at the start of the transfer window, we need 5 minimum. If we get a goalkeeper, Baleba, Sesko, and the 2 we've already got, that's 5. There are more needed. This is summer 1. You would need to replicate this next summer. And that's sometimes been a problem with United. We can do 1 big summer and then we don't follow it up. And I think Barada said that himself in an interview a few months ago. We have to do it. I think he said it after last summer. We've got to keep doing that. So this would be, you know, we want to win the league. We want to win the Champions League. We're not going to win the league even if we get a goalkeeper in Baleba. So you've got to keep doing it and doing it. But what I will say is, if we could get a goalkeeper and Baleba, as well as Sesko and Bermo and Cunha, it's not a bad start. It's not a bad start at all. Can we still wait? Can we wait till the summers to get Donnarumma for free? Says Alan Noonan. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't trust that Donnarumma story as far as I could throw it, and I couldn't throw it very far because he's massive. But I don't trust it. It feels to me like we're being used. I don't know how it works now. Mini Areola's passed, but he is part of that agency, and you know, even with Zlatan, it's you know, it's very much about making money, isn't it? And I don't know that I really trust that Donnarumma story, if I'm being completely honest. But you know, the way the summer transfer window is going now, I mean, I don't think, as I said, I refused to get involved in anything about Baleba because I thought it was fantasy. Brilliant player, but I thought it was fantasy. It's not a fantasy anymore. So I honestly can't sit here and say Donnarumma's never going to happen, as much as I think it's not true and it is a fantasy. You know, obviously fantasies can become reality. Even if we get Baleba, says Michael McLaughlin, people will say we can't get top 4. I think we will, but you don't. So what do we need to get top 4? Michael, honestly, and I'm not here to let the Glazers or Ineos off the hook, but I don't see top 4 as realistic no matter what we do. I don't think we're ready for that. I really do, and I don't think anything changes that. I don't think if you'd got Gyökeres, Baleba, Donnarumma, we'd be getting top 4. We finished 15th and we deserved to. We lost the Europa League final to Spurs, who had 3 of the best players not playing, and we deserved to. To go from 15th into top 4, especially based upon how good Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal are and how well they've spent, I don't think top 4 is realistic this year, no matter what we do. But I think 5th is, and that, I believe, will be Champions League. So, you know, if we could finish higher than that, I think it'd be incredible. But I'm not setting that as a task because I think that's, you know, very, 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 very unlikely. Jace says, I'd be very happy with this transfer window. I just hope we don't toss Agate or sell him. I think he hasn't had time to prove himself. Look, Jace, the Agate stick and the Mainu stick is somewhat baffling because even if we do get Baleba and it's Baleba and Bruno as our midfield 2, there will be injuries, there will be suspension, there will be substitutions, and Agate and Mainu will get game time. So we need to build squads. I said this about Arsenal. When Arsenal started to get into title races against Man City, I said, realistically, beyond their best 11, Arsenal have got no squad. They can't win a league without a squad. And now they've built a squad. And we need to build a squad as well. It's great to hear you excited again. This club takes its toll over the years. Good signings bring such a lift to his fans. No brainer for Ineos, says Max. Can we talk about Dave coming back for the friendly and the Bruno video? I would still have him back at United, says Acid23. I don't know what the Bruno video is, but obviously I think it's going to be great. Remember, it's an early kickoff on Saturday as well. I think it's 12:45. I thought it was 3 o'clock for some reason. But no, very much looking forward to doing that because I thought the way the club treated David De Gea was disgusting. And yeah, it's going to be very, very exciting to see him back at Old Trafford, getting the credit he deserves. He is a legend, effectively, David Hare. Just in, Brighton gave 80 million evaluation, says Ravanth. It's always a marathon, not a sprint with Man United transfers. For those new fans, it's been like this for 10 years. Welcome and enjoy the show, says Omar. Yes, please do subscribe as well. Just a theory, will Bruno leave next season, says Stallion. Well, that was Ben Jacobs as well. And I'm starting to think that Ben Jacobs has got, well, like a packet of Jacobs crackers, there's more than one. Because he said that the other day, didn't he, about Al Nassr? He said that Bruno is not interested. He wants to stay in the Premier League for at least one more season. So, is this not future plan? You know what? I'm going to drop it. I'm going to say it. I've said a couple of things tonight that might not be true, but I'm going to drop this anyway. Man United know Bruno wanted to go to Saudi. Man United spoke to Bruno and said, do one more year and you can go to Saudi. Bruno went, you know what, I don't know whether I'm ready to go anyway. I will do another year. Man United know in a year's time they're going to pocket 60, 70 million for Bruno. They go for Baleba now. That's a conspiracy. That's mad. But you know what? Why wouldn't it make sense? Maybe, well, look, we know for a fact. People say Bruno didn't want to go. Bruno didn't want to go, and he didn't. But he didn't say no straight away. That story started before we played Chelsea, which was 5 days before we played the Europa League, and it was a few days before he said no. He didn't say no for 2 weeks. He didn't say no to Al Hilal for 2 weeks. So he definitely thought about it. So is it beyond the realms of possibility that Man United said to Bruno, we don't want you to go. We're not ready for you to go. But if you give us 12 months, we will let you go with our blessing. And maybe Bruno went, well, I don't really, I do want to go and I don't want to go, but it's World Cup year, and you know what? Should we revisit it in a year? And maybe that's what's going to happen. In which case, you pretty much know you're going to get 60, 70, 80 million next summer. I don't know. I'm just trying to think things through because it is a bit crazy. As Stallion says, will Bruno leave next summer? With Darwin leaving for a good fee, do you think this gives us more leverage asking for fees for some of the stragglers, says Smoggy? Depends where they're going. Would you rather Baleba or a keeper, says Bangam? I think now that it's Baleba and it's realistic, I have to say Baleba. I mean, as I said, I think you can get by with Onana. It's a risk, but I think you can. 61% of you think we will get this deal done. Mark, what is a numpty? Some prat commented, this board ain't doing so bad so far in the window, you numpty, on one of the posts criticising the board earlier on. Nick is basically calling you a prat. Numpty means you're a prat, basically. Rich people don't pay down debt, just interest as debt isn't affected. Inflation, still in shock about Sesko and potentially Baleba, says S-Key. Baleba has that Nani celebration in his locker, says Ads. Baleba is on 12.5 a week. He would want the move. Of course he would, Wan. Oh, look, I don't even react to that. I don't even care about that. That's irrelevant to me. Baleba would be open to the move. I actually, I actually think that he is. Of course, he's going to want. I'm laughing my head off here. I've just seen IndyCaler News, Carlos Baleba update at 10:30. Now, This account got shouted out by David Ornstein today, so I'm not going to discredit it in any way, but I'm telling you now, I've been playing this game for 10 years, and anybody that's been on Twitter for 10 years knows that Indicator News has had the piss ripped out of it for years. You know, they might have deleted them, but there are so many tweets which were bollocks, and this was the sort of stuff, you know, delete to Man United update it at 10:30 tonight when he was going to Juventus. Like, their track record has been abysmal. But something this summer, for some reason, has turned better. I'm still on the fence with it. I've got to be honest, I'm still on the fence with it. I will give it the credit it deserves, but I still, when I see Baleba update at 10:30, it just takes me back to all the bullshit ones years ago. So I'm still on the fence with it, but credit where it's due. Also, I just want to actually, you know what? I just want to have a look at what the credit is. What was it that... Yeah, so they dropped 5 hours ago that Man United have reached out to Brighton in the last few hours regarding Baleba. Sources close to the situation revealed that Baleba is eager to discuss a move. Look, I'm not going to dismiss that in any way, shape or form, but Ornstein said it was not in the last few hours. He said it was in the last few days. And also, Ben Jacobs said last week, Manchester United appreciate Baleba, and you know he broke that. So look, credit where it's due. That's all I'm going to say. But you know what? Life's great. Life's great. I just remember them being full of shit. But somebody just said KFC and stuff. I can't remember the KFC stuff. I sort of vaguely remember it, but I can't remember the context. But yeah, redemption arc's incredible, Travis. It really is. Hey, fair play to him. Fair play. I'm always, you know, as you know, disruptors. I love it. Do you think letting all these employees go was to pay for the wages of new signings? Says who to blame? I mean, look, it will have saved some money as well. XGV says thanks for all the news. Indicator must have sold themselves to someone legit. I think that's what happened, Matthew. I think the account got bought by somebody legit, if I'm being honest. That's what I would say. Are you going to wait the 10:30 news? Mate, if there's something good, we'll go live again. Yeah, exactly. We will go live, of course. You know, we'll see what happens. I feel like this transfer window is at, I mean, I've done so many of these. I mean, I'm not sure someone's ever going to want to sit down and have a pint with me in pub and talk about transfer windows with the United stand over the last decade, but I could bore you to death and get you pissed, you know, on the amount of hours we'd be talking. But I mean, a summer transfer window for me, this has not been. A summer transfer window for me is a considerable amount of 11 o'clock night time streams. You know, we've always done the 8 o'clock show, but there used to be quite a lot of 11 o'clock streams with news dropping between 10 and 11. It hasn't really happened this year. Not very much at all. So for me, you know, that I expect that in previous I mean, I remember being live at my mother-in-law's. We were all staying over there on a Saturday night at like 11:30 about Schweinsteiger. So, you know, I quite like all that. But it hasn't been like that this summer or last summer, really. I don't know whether that's an Ineos thing or not. Maybe, I don't know. But a lot of those things and a lot of those briefs come from, you know, maybe United have shut that down a little bit. But the way a transfer window should run around Man United is there should be briefs coming out throughout the day. So, look, maybe we will get something later on. As I said, I think Baleba will sign. I think this is I don't think it's going to happen quickly, but I think this is the start of it. Sesko, here we go. Could still be tonight, could be tomorrow, but I think that will happen very, very quickly. Somebody just said, are you pro Ineos now? I mean, that's a show. Can we ask that? Can you ask me that tomorrow night? Because we're sort of running out of time here. But it's a long question. United targets signings this summer makes you wonder what Dan Ashworth's summer plans were, doesn't it? Says Noel. We should get 2 players for the price of 1, says Along. Do you think? Thank you very much. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Don't forget Boohoo Man, 10% off. Scan the QR code, check out the website, or scan the QR code. Thank you everybody for watching. Okay, very, very quick after show today, and I'm actually going to sort of freestyle it a little bit, which I always do, and say that Oh God, yeah, it's exhausting. It's bloody exhausting at the moment. Nomad says YouTube recommended a United Stand Van Gaal video to me yesterday. I keep getting recommended old United Stand videos. I think it's because I watched that Mallorca video that someone gave me the YouTube to, and yeah, I love it when it's like a really, really old one, like 8 years ago, and it's a transfer story or a match reaction for a random Van Gaal game where I'm going absolutely mad. I do quite enjoy them, actually. I mean, God, there's just so many hours of content, isn't there, that we've done over the years. It's incredible, really. I mean, there's a 10-year back catalogue of every Man United game. There's a reaction to every Man United game in the last 10 years. That's incredible. And there's probably a watch-along for most of them as well. And there's a reaction to every transfer story. I mean, it's amazing, really, when you think about it. But, I mean, credit to you. It's grown because of you. But yeah, I'm bloody exhausted today. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a busy one, and got a lot going on as well. Like the whole kitchen and hall is just concrete at the moment. So we're balancing across. Well, if you saw my story on Instagram yesterday, sort of balancing across planks at the moment, like walking the plank. And if you fall in, you don't get eaten by a shark. You turn into a cement man, which would have been a bloody nightmare. But yeah, and then all the stuff that's going on. But look, I don't mind being busy for this sort of stuff because it's exciting, of course. But it's yeah, it's. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we. You know what? To answer that previous question, I'm not pro Ineos, and I'm certainly not pro the Glazers. I would swap them in a bloody heartbeat because they're all in it together. What I'm pro is that the people that really matter, you, having some bloody enjoyment in your life, and me. I found last season horrific. It was draining. Like, football's my life. It always has been my life. I bloody love it. I used to get stressed, right? Remember when I used to live in Ireland, and we'd have a bad start to the season, and when we were down the pub at lunchtime, I'd be saying to my mates, all I want is for us to be in a title race at Christmas. And they go, what are you talking about? And I go, I love Christmas and I love football at Christmas, and I can't stand the idea of Man United being on the telly and we're not in a title race. And they'd go, you spoiled wanker. And I go, yeah, but I'd hate to think of Christmas without us being in the title race. And now I do think spoilt wanker. But you know what? We were in a title race every Christmas basically for about what felt like 50 years, but no, more like 20. But no, the point is that last season was horrific. We've had some horrific times over the last 10 years. And I think the thing that doesn't get mentioned enough is the football's been shit for 10 years as well. I can't name 5 Man United games in a row where we played good football, whereas I can name 5 years in a row quite easily across 20 years, numerous times. I can give you 5 years of good football. We don't get that. So I don't like the ownership. I don't trust the ownership. Even if we get these signings, I've seen big signings before and it's gone wrong. As I said, we'll all be Glazers out. We'll all be screaming Ineos out if we lose 4 of our first 8 games, and that's possible. You know, why is it not possible? Nobody can predict. And over the last 10 years, we've had loads of false dawns. But I just want to be. I want us to be. I want us to be. I want us to be happy. I want us to be excited. You know, I do that's football, and the amount of games I watch, whether it be Brighton, Villa, you know, even Liverpool, if I'm being honest, and you watch them and you go, fucking hell, they're so much better than us. They're so much more entertaining than us. I just want to be entertained. I want to be excited. And we're not winning the league. I'd be excited with a race for 5th. I mean, that's incredible. If you'd said that to me 15 years ago, I'd be excited with a race for 5th. I'd have said, who are you? You know, but that's sort of where we are at the moment. So, yeah, I just want to have a bit of optimism and a bit of excitement. And to do that, we need better players. So when we're linked to better players, that's when it helps. Jocelyn says 70 million plus 10 add-ons and Toby loan for a year with half wage covered will be appealing. Jocelyn, you should ring up and ask, can you be the chief negotiator? That's very technical. Are the Talali rumours true, says Michelle. I think that's a wind-up. I think that's just to get at Newcastle fans. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, right. Well, I might be back a little bit later. I'm more than happy to be back a bit later if there is something big breaking. My feeling is that we will get the deal done. And I think it might be a longer process, but of course we're waiting for Sesko. Here we go as well. So please do subscribe to the channel. That number's wrong, but I think we're getting close to 140,000 now. So please do subscribe. Thank you everybody for watching. Take care, and really appreciate these 8 o'clock shows. They're brilliant. And thank you, all of you. Make sure you subscribe and turn the bell on, by the way, because if I do go live later, I don't know what time it will be. Thanks for watching.